Okay, so I want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine you've done the impossible. You've won
One what?
the lottery. Not, the actual Powerball, but the lottery of life. You have the money, the fame, millions of fans. You've escaped a really difficult past, and you're at the absolute top of the mountain.
Right, you've made it.
You've totally made it.
Yeah.
Now imagine looking at all of that, the cars, the future for your family, everything, and deciding to balance it all on the edge of a razor blade.
Okay.
That one wrong move, just one impulsive decision could send it all crashing down. And the wildest part is, you make that move anyway.
It sounds, when you put it like that, it sounds completely insane. It goes against every instinct for self-preservation that we have.
Exactly. We're wired to survive, to protect what we have.
Yeah.
But we're seeing this happen, and it's become such a recognizable pattern that there's actually a term for it now, specifically in hip-hop culture. And today, we're doing a deep dive into this concept of the crash out.
Crash out. It's an evocative term.
Yeah.
It sounds violent. It sounds final.
It is final. And to really get it, we're not just looking at some dictionary definition. We're using a specific article as our roadmap. It's called King Von and the Architecture of the Crash Out.
So we're looking at a case study.
The ultimate case study.
Yeah.
We're going to unpack the tragic life and death of the rapper King Von.
This is a heavy one then. We're talking about music, yeah, but this is really about sociology, psychology, and that dark place where reputation and reality collide.
So let's start with the basics before we even dive into the King Von story. The term crash out, it's everywhere right now.
All over social media.
You see it in comments on Twitter, TikTok, and usually it just means someone is losing their temper, right?
Yeah.
But what we're reading today, it's a lot deeper than just having a bad Tuesday.
Much deeper. Snapping at a barista, that's just a bad moment, a lapse in judgment. What this article is describing is more of a lifestyle. It defines a crash out as a pattern of high-risk, impulsive actions.
High risk like skydiving, or high risk in a different way.
High risk, like violent confrontational behavior. The kind of behavior that has a very high chance of ending in either prison or death.
Wow.
And the key thing here, the thing that makes it a crash out and not just, crime, is the context. It's usually someone who has everything to lose.
That's the part I want to stick a pin in, the lot to lose part. Because the source says it involves a disregard for safety and future.
That's the psychological core of it, the disregard for the future. Most of us, we operate on a kind of risk-reward calculation. If I do this, what happens next week?
Right.
In the crash-out mindset, next week just doesn't seem to exist. It's a kind of tunnel vision where the only thing that matters is the immediate satisfaction of an emotion, usually pride or anger.
Regardless of the consequences.
Regardless of the fact that it might cost you the next 50 years of your life.
It's almost nihilistic.
It is. And the text points out that this is really rooted in modern hip-hop culture, specifically to describe a trajectory. It's not just one random event. It's a path you get on.
And if you don't get off, it leads to a dead end.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have the theory. Now we have to talk about the man who, unfortunately, became the poster child for this. King Von.
An incredibly talented artist.
Hugely talented. And successful. That's the thing I just can't wrap my head around. We're not talking about some struggling artist here.
Not all.
King Von had made it. He had the record deal, millions of streams, the money. He had escaped the very environment that usually traps people.
And that is the paradox at the heart of our deep dive.
Yeah.
You have this massive success in the music industry. By any traditional metric, he was a superstar. But at the same time, he maintained, what does the source call it? Active involvement in street conflicts.
See, here's where I'll play devil's advocate for a second. You always hear about rappers needing street cred, right?
Yeah.
It's part of the marketing. So
Yeah.
maybe he was just playing a character.
And that's the tragedy of it. It wasn't a character. That's a crucial distinction in this whole crash-out architecture. Von didn't just rap about violence as a storyteller.
Yeah.
He boasted about his actual involvement in it. We're talking about lyrics that were referencing real events, real conflicts, in real time.
And on social media, too. I remember seeing it. Wasn't subtle. He was on Instagram Live, on Twitter, actively taunting people.
Exactly. He was using the very platforms that made him famous to amplify the danger he was in. He refused to separate the art from the reality. He, in fact, merged them.
But why? If you have the money, why not just move away, get a huge security team, and never touch a weapon again? Why keep playing the game when you've already won?
That is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And it comes back to that word authenticity. In drill music, the specific subgenre Von was in, authenticity is the currency. Fans believe in the music because they believe the artist is really living it.
So his brand was the danger.
Precisely. If he stops living that life, does the music lose its edge? Does he lose his status? The material we're looking at suggests that everyone, fans, critics, they all saw this refusal to separate his career from the violence as the core of his crash-out architecture.
It's like he built a house, but the foundation was made of dynamite.
That's a great analogy, a house on a foundation of dynamite. Because it implies the explosion isn't an accident,
It's a design flaw.
or maybe even a design feature, depending on your perspective. He was building this reputation as the realest rapper out there. I don't just rap about it, I live it. And that reputation made him rich. But that same reputation required him to stay in the line of fire, required him to respond to every threat, to always be volatile.
It's a trap. The very thing that feeds you is the thing that's going to eat you.
A perfect, terrible loop. And this gets us to that idea of architecture from the title. A crash out isn't just a moment you snap, it's a structure. It's something you build, brick by brick, over years.
So every tweet taunting an opponent was a brick.
Yes.
Every time he chose to go to a club where he knew there'd be trouble instead of staying home, another
Yes.
brick.
Every time he prioritized respect over personal safety. He was literally constructing the scenario for his own end. When you look at it like that, the ending isn't a surprise. It's inevitable. The building was designed to collapse.
Let's talk about that collapse, because we know how this ends. November 6th, 2020, in Atlanta.
A very dark day for hip-hop. And the details of that night, they just perfectly illustrate everything we've been defining.
So set the scene. This wasn't some kind of planned hit, right? This wasn't like a movie assassination.
No, and that's what makes it so incredibly frustrating. It was impulsive, it was messy, it was a crash out happening in real time. Vaughn was at a nightclub, he leaves. And outside, he runs into the crew of another rapper, Quando Rondo.
Now, in a normal world, or maybe a business world, you see a rival, you ignore them, you let security handle it, you get in your car and you drive away.
That's what someone focused on the future would do.
Right.
But remember, the crash out is defined by a disregard for the future. So according to the accounts, Vaughn didn't walk away. He approached. And he didn't just exchange words. He threw a punch.
He initiated the physical fight.
He threw punches. A multi-millionaire, a chart-topping artist, throwing fists in a parking lot at 3 in the morning.
It just sounds so small. I don't mean to minimize a death, but a fist fight. That's high school stuff. That shouldn't be how a superstar story ends.
It absolutely shouldn't be. But when you've built that architecture of violence, a fist fight is never just a fist fight. The tension was already there. The potential for violence was already baked in.
Oh, it
The
escalated.
source says it escalated rapidly. From fists to guns.
In seconds.
In seconds. The fight triggered a reaction. Someone from the other crew pulled a weapon. Shots were fired. And just like that, because of a decision to throw a punch, King Von was dead.
It's chilling. You can almost pause the video in your mind right before that punch. In that split second, he had everything. A second later, it was gone.
That is the definition of the crash out. It is the ultimate gamble with the worst possible odds. And it just highlights that disconnect we talked about. In that moment, proving he was about that life was more important than his career, his family, his own existence.
It really hammers home that architecture point. If he hadn't spent years building that exact reputation, maybe he wouldn't have felt that pressure.
Yes.
Maybe he could have just walked away. But he was a prisoner of the image he had built. He painted himself into a corner where walking away looked like weakness. And in his world, weakness just wasn't an option.
Yeah.
So now there's this legacy. King Von is gone. The music is still huge, maybe even bigger since he passed, which is a whole other dark conversation. But how does this article frame his legacy?
It uses a very specific word, volatile. His legacy is defined by an intense, often volatile approach to life in his art.
Volatile, explosive, unstable.
And that volatility is what people were drawn to. It's electric. But you know, electricity without proper insulation, it just burns the house down.
So the crash out label is now just permanently attached to his name.
It is. He's become the cautionary tale. The text frames the architecture of the crash out as a blueprint of what not to do. It's a descriptor for anyone who can't decouple their safety from their reputation.
Decouple safety from reputation. That's a really powerful phrase, because for most of us, being safe is a good reputation. Being reliable is good. But in that specific subculture, being safe can be seen as being a coward.
And that's the pressure cooker they're in. You have to have some empathy for that position. These young artists are rewarded with money with fame for being dangerous. And then society turns around and asks, well, why did you die? You should have been smarter.
Right. We want the music to feel real, but we don't want the artist to actually suffer the consequences of that reality. We consume the crash out as entertainment right up until it becomes a funeral.
And for the artist, it must create a kind of cognitive dissonance. Like, I got rich being this guy, why should I stop? Vaughn's tragedy is that he couldn't find an answer to that question in time.
You know, when we started, I asked you to imagine risking everything. But looking at the architecture like this, the bricks of social media, the foundation of authenticity, it stops looking like a random risk. It starts to look like a plan.
That's the most haunting part of it. A crash out feels impulsive in the moment. The punch, the shot. But the conditions for it are set years in advance. It's a systemic failure of long-term planning.
It makes you look at other public figures differently. When you see someone acting out, courting danger,
You start to see the scaffolding going up, you see them laying the bricks, and you just have to wonder if they even know what they're building.
we've covered a lot of ground. We've defined the term, this lifestyle of high-risk behavior. We've looked at the paradox of King Von, the superstar who couldn't leave the streets, and we've analyzed that night in Atlanta where the architecture finally collapsed.
It's a tragic story, but it's an essential one for understanding a big part of modern culture.
Absolutely, it's not just about rap music. It's about ego, human nature, and the cost of the masks we all wear.
And the cost of not knowing when it's time to walk away.
Before we go, I want to leave you with one last thought. We talked a lot about how important authenticity was to King Von. It was his entire brand, his identity. But here's the question I want you to think about. If a crash out requires a total disregard for your own future, at what point does a reputation for authenticity just become a blueprint for self-destruction?
As is the question.
Thanks for diving deep with us today,
Stay safe out there.
and we'll catch you on the next one.